Hello, people. Welcome to the Fantasy Fair. What is it? Oh, that is right. The most magical podcast on earth. Joining me, as always, I have Alexys Moreno. How are you doing, Alexis?
Good.
And that, wow, you sound so enthusiastic. It's just been that kind of week, Moreno.
It's
been that kind of year.
That is true.
And then we also have Alexis Soto. How are you doing today, Alexis?
You know what? I'm in a good mood.
Let's just keep our, smile. Darn, yes, smile. That Roger Rabbit. That song is from Roger Rabbit. Okay. This episode, we're going to be reviewing Howard, the documentary directed by Don Hahn. And, we're just going to have a loose, free-form conversation on Howard, because I think it's no surprise. I think we liked it. I think. Who knows? We'll find out during the duration of the conversation. So let's begin. First of all, initial thoughts before we dive right into the conversation. Alexis Soto, what is your
very, very well done for the most part. Look, when you are Disney fans like us, there's only so much left that as far as information that you weren't already purviewed to that you can find out. So when it comes to Howard's influence on the Disney Renaissance itself, there really wasn't that much new material that we weren't already, aware of.
Mm-hmm.
But again, when we get to that kind of stuff, we love revisiting certain things that we already were aware of, and they do paint a great picture of Howard in that all of who he is and all of who he was, really not just the fact that he was a brilliant songwriter, but his entire being was put into the stamp that became known as the Disney Renaissance. And so when we're focusing almost entirely on Howard, we get to see perhaps more so than anyone else, he did have the biggest impact on what came after that. Mm-hmm. But what I found to be the, at least the stuff that intrigued me the most is stuff that we don't necessarily hear about from all of those behind the scenes features. And that is Howard's personal life, his partners, his romantic partners, his family, his upbringing, his background. That's information that to me was entirely brand new. And I'm glad Disney finally feels comfortable acknowledging that, because let's be real, this wasn't something they wanted to talk about, especially since he died of AIDS in a time where it was unfortunately a politically toxic thing to even discuss that people were being killed or dying because of that disgusting disease. I mean, and we're being blamed for it for the wrong reasons, obviously.
I mean, it's politically or anything like that. I mean, it was literally called the gay cancer.
And look, if we're gonna bring up a part that stood out to me, and I texted Moreno when I was watching it. Yeah, so I mean, it wasn't entirely a shock because we're aware of the stories, but we weren't alive at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it became a shock because of just how how they say the more things change, the more they stay the same. So then it was called the gay cancer for HIV, which was horrific. And today we have the China virus, courtesy of President Trump, in regards to coronavirus, because it originated from China, which is all, of course, racist, offensive, and horrific to use.
Yeah, a lot of fear, a lot of everything like that. But the thing is that because of the taboo and everything like that, you could feel it definitely in different parts of, and the thing I liked most about Howard was that it, the songwriting and the stories that he told, especially with The Little Mermaid, I grown to appreciate it a little bit more, that movie, in terms of Ariel's wants and plights and everything like that. Stop.
You need to stop. You should probably stop saying that.
Okay.
Stop. The Little Mermaid is objectively perfect, and you are wrong.
Okay.
Let's just get that out of the way with.
All right.
And I say that because Alexis literally did a facepalm right now.
Yeah.
Because are we really going to have this conversation again?
No.
We've
I'm
already
not.
established it's perfect.
I'm not, but I'm like listing off a personal thing. Because of like how much of his soul he poured into that particular story and everything like that. And I find that I find that emotionally moving, you know, that he was able to find something personal to connect with and everything like that. And the reinvention of the Want song and everything like that I think really, really captured the essence throughout this whole thing. Before I dive in more, Moreno, what were your initial thoughts on Howard?
I loved it. I cried so much.
Big shock, right?
I made David watch it because I mean, I tell him a lot of these things, but like, you know, I feel, I mean, maybe it doesn't, but I feel like it just kind of goes over his head. And so I made him sit down and watch it with me, and although he missed like one of my favorite parts, but whatever. But no, like I thought it was really
Fuck
cool,
you,
and
David.
I'm happy that I like saw it with him because I love this man. And I mean, he made like one of my all-time favorite movies, basically. Like, that movie is the way that it is because of him. And
Only one?
yes.
Only one of your all-time favorite movies? There's another one.
Which one?
Beauty and the Beast or Aladdin. Are those not like in the same ballpark?
No.
Not in the
No?
dude. This is Moreno we're talking about. It's like nowhere near the ballpark or vicinity. It's not even with 1,000 miles to how she feels about the Little Mermaid.
But I guess no, but I guess I feel kind of the same way Kyle feels about The Little Mermaid, but with Beauty and the Beast. Although I do think that Beauty and the Beast is a perfect movie, but I just lean more towards The Little Mermaid.
Mhm.
But I can appreciate it more now. But yeah. It's really good. I feel like more people should watch it.
I think what is like a running theme between the documentaries that we've seen so far is gaining more of appreciation of the things that we already loved. Like, if you didn't think you loved it before,
Yeah.
like you gain this whole new perspective and everything like that. Like with Waking Sleeping Beauty, you know, we love the Renaissance era, but like we love it even more. I like, especially when I see my homeboy Michael Eisner on the screen. I love that shit. But the thing is that we gain a more profound sense of what it meant to be artistically in it during these periods of time. Yeah, so let's dive right into it. Let's talk about his career pre-Disney, before the mouse came knocking at his door. So let's talk about his first major success that I resonate with a little bit, and that's Little Shop of Horrors. Alexis Soto, did you watch Little Shop of Horrors, like the movie or anything like that, or was this new information being poured into you?
Little Shop of Horrors, there's this image that sticks out to mind about the film adaptation playing on Cartoon Network, and I may be tuned in for 40 seconds. So
Okay.
that's as far as I care to remember that.
Okay, Alexys Moreno, anything? A Little Shop of Horrors?
I know the songs, but I've only seen like that one song, like actually seen it. But other than that, I've never seen the movie.
Oh my
But
god!
I am kind of interested in watching the original one.
Oh, the original 50s pulp movie. Yeah. It is very it's basically horror, and hence the title. But the thing is that I loved the movie growing up. The Little Shop of Horrors movie with Rick Moranis, and it's such a good thing. Like it's dark, it's sadistic, funny, just like how this little plant, he keeps on wanting blood,
and there's songs in it. It kind of has your name written all over it. Let's face it, Kyle.
Yeah. The whole setting around it and everything like that, it's just a wonderful thing. And for the longest time, I was like, these songs are great and everything like that. I had no idea until like 3 years ago that it was Alan Menken and Howard Ashman.
Wow. I knew that. I've never seen it.
I know. But like, I loved it for so long and had no idea who wrote the soundtrack that fucking bobs. And I was like, oh, okay, it makes sense now.
Oh my god. No, yeah, I definitely, like, I have always wanted to see it. Cause I'm super into like, Rocky Horror Picture Show and stuff, and like obviously like those two are always compared, so but I don't know why I've just never seen it.
It's probably just because the word horror is in it, because if we're talking about like the different beasts and different animals that the two productions are, Rocky Horror Picture Show is an homage to like serialized horror, and then Little Shop of Horrors is more based on like B movie horrors, like like Frankenstein's cousin twice removed movie. But you have so there's two different animals and two different inspirations that I think are completely divorced from one another. Also, I don't think that there's alien transvestites in Little Shop of Horrors. So you have that.
Hey, Kyle.
Yeah.
I just have a question.
Yes.
And this is a question that maybe listeners might know, or maybe because I'm not aware of it, and this isn't at all to be critical, right? Is it still like okay to say that term, transvestite? It's just a question I have. I don't know if like,
I don't know either. But it is
that's what he is.
Yeah,
like that's kind of what he's called.
There's
right.
There's a song in the musical called "Sweet Transvestite."
Yeah.
Look, and just to be clear, I'm not trying to like drag anybody here. I legitimately don't know if it's like, if the vocabulary has changed or we can't say that anymore, but that is historically what has been used, and it is called from what you just said.
Yeah.
But,
and also, like, it's not a literal transsexual. It's a alien species called the transsexuals from Transylvania. The planet Transylvania. So it's kind of a play on things. So I think it's okay to reference transvestite in that.
In the context
regard.
of that, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. But let's go back to Little Shop of Horrors. Little things that you didn't know about Little Shop of Horrors, guys. That was Jack Nicholson's breaking role. I don't know if you guys knew that. He played a client of the dentist.
Oh, I thought it was or was that? Wasn't
what year are we talking about? What Little Shop of Horrors?
Nest?
Bill Murray played his character in the musical, but the original client that Bill Murray plays in the musical was played by Jack Nicholson in the 50s.
Cool.
And that
50s go do
in the 50s, and that was his breakout role.
Well, I mean, that wouldn't be the last time Jack Nicholson would be associated with horror.
Yeah. And it won't be yeah. It certainly wasn't the last, yeah. But anyway, I love Little Shop of Horrors. I love it to death. I strongly recommend you guys watch it. It is such good pulpy romantic kind of things, and also like the story that he told with like how like suddenly Seymour and the vision with Aubrey, the character Aubrey, and like the way that she like the most thing that she romanticizes is having the wire fence around her house that you just see in suburbia, you know, and just that romanticized thing, and how like that kind of tent pulled the ultimate like want song, and that it was like the want song that, you know, started it all in his career, you know, and I think that was really cool as well.
One of my favorite parts of the documentary, in that part about Little Shop of Horrors, especially when they're talking about its run on Broadway before the film had been made, is he was brought on to do some media to talk about the success of Little Shop of Horrors. And you can tell that a lot of the reporters, if not commentators on that panel, were just very much in awe when Howard would speak, because they just weren't at all sure what about that little Broadway show was attracting this much attention and was getting such positive reaction. And to me, you know, Howard Ashman has that same effect as some people working in the business today. You know, some people, when they speak about a particular project, and they are so passionate and they go so in depth about why they make certain creative decisions, you're just completely entranced in everything they have to say. And I recall that instance when Howard was just explaining what it is that made this thing work and how he came about those decisions. And a lot of the people were just completely silent, just listening to him. And I think it showed just the impact Howard had on people. We all are aware of that infamous appearance he had talking to Walt Disney and Imagineering Animation about, you know, how he approaches animation. And it's that famous clip that always gets played all, you know, time and time again, of him saying that animation is the perfect medium for musicals, which is really his bread and butter. So, and we've talked about it many times, that's how he revolutionized, in essence, animation going forward at Disney.
Yeah. And the thing is that when he talked about, you brought up a good point, is where he was talking to the animators and he said that, hey, you could kind of do things and get away with things that you can't in live action. Again, this is where the argument of like making the live action remakes translating, you know.
Well, Howard Ashman pretty much just laid down the single greatest argument against any live action adaptation of a Disney animated movie. I mean, just then and there, he laid the gauntlet down. It just can't work.
Yeah.
Now, there are some exceptions. We'll see how Mulan turns out. But for the most part, they've been very disappointing, the live action adaptations.
Yeah. I mean, the only time I got like a super thrill out of seeing something like that was Jungle Book, when Baloo and Mowgli were floating down the river and everything like that. Plus the I Want to Be Like You sequence, but that is for completely different reasons other than faithfulness. But it like, I don't know, it kind of loses the magic a little bit. I mean, I know you guys love, you know, like the Beauty and the Beast movie, but I think that the movie lost a little bit of its magic when it translated live actionally. You know, is that even a word? I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, and that is the perfect argument. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Alexis, that it is the perfect argument of why stuff like that shouldn't work. You know? But yeah, I mean, when in doubt, listen to Howard, right? I don't know. What do you think about that argument, Moreno?
Yeah. Well, okay. I have a question. So, what to you makes the Beauty and the Beast movie not good? And then, how come the Broadway show is so successful? I feel like it's essentially the same thing. Is that why? Because it's the same thing?
Here's why. Here's why I think that the Broadway show is successful. I think because the thing that Howard...
I mean, granted, the movie is very successful as well. So.
Yeah, but in terms of conveying the story, I think it's completely different than what the live action did. Because the thing is that with Beauty and the Beast, the movie at least, it has this Broadway sensibility with it that I think that lent itself for the stage versus something like live action. Like some movies that are made in Broadway should not be turned into theatrical production, like Hades Town. I don't think that musical would translate well into live action because there's different moving pieces that work only visually on the stage. Or like Hamilton, I don't think should be made into a live action movie because the sensibilities that work on the stage of that one right there, especially in like stuff like the cabinet battles and everything like that, I think it works better on a stage than it does on live action. So but the thing is that Howard Ashman, because he did come from a Broadway, background and everything like that, a theatrical background, it did work into making Beauty and the Beast, the movie, the animated movie, into a theatrical production because they already had that DNA with it. That versus like Howard Ashman and the story that he told Beauty and the Beast did not come from live action movies and all that stuff and translated that into Beauty and the Beast. No, it was the completely other way around. So I think that's why critically I think Beauty and the Beast works better than the live action movie. That's just to me. That's just to me. What I think. But yeah. Anything else you guys want to add on to that? No? Alexis Soto? Anything?
I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. Let's move on to the next thing.
Yeah. I want to go into his personal life a little bit because that was really interesting, the dynamic that he had with his partners.
Wait, I have a question because I feel like I don't remember them saying it. How was his relationship with his parents?
It was like they mentioned it a little bit. It was very much like a mutual respect with the parents. It was just like, oh, you want to do, you want to do theater? Okay. That makes sense because you always like to tell stories and everything like that. So theater would be a good...
I feel like they mentioned him for like 0.2 seconds and then I don't know where they went.
What I recall is... So the mother was featured. I feel she's still alive, right? Because they had audio of her throughout later in the documentary where she was recalling about how he was like in his final days.
That wasn't the sister?
I thought that was the mom. Or it could have been both the mom and the sister.
That's true.
It could have been that as well. So my impression of it was that the mom, I mean, the documentary itself didn't necessarily address how Howard's parents felt through the evolution of, all the many years about his sexuality. So, but I would assume, considering how the mom would kind of be there for Howard throughout, and the sister, that they were fine with it. The father was very little. He was seldom mentioned.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that means.
Yeah. I was like, But I love the beginning, when they do the whole thing with the sister, and like they kind of show like him babysitting her, and he's kind of putting on a show for her. I love it. It's so cute.
And he would like have her wait in like, the hallway and all that stuff while he like put up together a diagram and all that stuff of like what he's going to be presenting to her. And all that stuff. And I think that is really cute. And it just like, it's just another.
That's a good memory to have. Like a good, like, my brother did this for me, or like my brother would do this for me to keep me entertained. Like, I love it.
Yeah, it
kind of like you made your brother entertain you, even though I think it was the other way around. I feel
I would make him dance with me,
right?
Ballroom
but
dance.
You were the older one, and he was the younger one, so this was different.
Ay, poor David. But yeah, I mean it's endearing, and it just shows that, the little bit of, heart that he had, yeah. Let's talk about Smile, the production that he went on with one Miss Jodie Benson in the cast.
Wait, we didn't talk about the partners.
Yeah, that's what you wanted to address.
The partner. Oh yeah. I like the dynamic between the first one. Not but I'm very interested. And because he wanted to be like he wanted to be a homebody. He wanted to, hey, let's stay home and do all that stuff, versus the other one, he wanted to party and all that stuff. And I find that dynamic very interesting on how he was more intimate, kind of thing. And he, like, again, this is where I think...
I didn't really see it that way. I saw it more of like he was determined. He had a goal and he was determined to get it. And the other guy was just kind of like, not that he gave up, but he was like, it'll come to me someday. Like, like he didn't really want to work for it. And, the lifestyle.
It's just one of those relationships that clearly can't.
They just grew apart.
Well, yeah, but it just couldn't work. Not only do they have different goals for life, but they had different approaches. They stopped seeing eye to eye on basically everything. One was, let's just face it, mature, and the other one was very carefree and, let's see what the universe decides for me kind of person. We've come across people like those. They can be very, they can self-implode very easily. Yeah. And so I got the impression that Howard, really for the longest time tried to salvage the relationship because he did love him. But at some point, it was clear based on, unfortunately, just because of what was being said, it was easy to see because of the epidemic that would shortly ensue in that era, how he would turn out and what would happen. And then later on when it was mentioned that he was dying of AIDS, well, I mean, they pretty much kind of gave it away earlier when they said that he was very active, shall we say. And again, that's horrible that happened, but
That was really sad. Like, I
Yeah.
would hate to go through something like.
But
'cause
you
they
see
were
how much he
together
loved him.
Yeah, like you
Because
care
he even
so
went to
much
go-
for a
he went-
person.
Right, he
You're
even went to
with a
go care for
person.
him.
Yeah, I feel like that's, even though it didn't end on good terms, and obviously it really didn't end on, like, it ended badly because
Yeah.
one of them died. But like, I feel like that's such a good relationship, an important relationship, like the ones that are so meaningful to you and so, like, they shake your world, and like, it's just, they're so big and so important to you. Like, I don't know, I love that. But like, it's just really sad.
Yeah, really sad. I mean, like, I don't know what I was gonna say. I had something. I had something.
That's happened to me literally 5 times in the last, I want to say, 5 days. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the fact that, our entire lives have been uprooted by this pandemic, but I feel like we have aged 85 years.
Or in Moreno's case, 120. I'm still keeping that running joke, everyone. I hope you know that. But yeah, it was really sad. The dynamic that also, like, the way that they described it. It was like he was on borrowed time, and he knew he was, running out of time, and he was trying to get all these things accomplished at once and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really sad, Okay, unrelated but kind of related. Dave Grohl of I don't know if you heard of this band, Nirvana, or the Foo Fighters. I don't know if you guys heard about those bands. But Dave Grohl.
Is that a serious question?
No, I'm being
Oh,
a smart
okay.
ass. Yeah. But he, in the last year of David Bowie's life, he talked to David Bowie at an after party. And he talked to David Bowie, and he was like, happy birthday and everything like that. And he said, David Bowie told him, don't tell me that because I've run out of birthdays.
Oh, shit. Goddamn.
Yeah. And he said, don't tell me that I've run out of birthdays. And I, at first, because he let his, like, illness, he was very quiet about it. The only person who knew about it was, his wife and his children. That was the only people who knew about what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
But David Bowie, the way that went about was that he knew about that. Dave Grohl just thought he was just kidding, and he was just like, he was being very exuberant as David Bowie would be, and just like being very silly about it. But no, it was just like, don't tell me that I've run out of birthdays, and that's really dark, the way that he was. And that's kind of the way that Howard Ashman lived his life. He was kind of running out of time because of that. And I think that is where you got some of the greatest, out of tragedy, you got the biggest art out of him.
Yeah, I completely your dog. I hate that. Yeah. Like you finally find your, I don't know, niche, I guess. And like you get a momentum, and then it all comes crashing down, and you're just kind of like, well, okay.
I mean, if we're being, honest with how this couple of days have been, like.
Molly, are you okay? When she gets excited, she starts coughing.
No, it's okay. I'll wait, Molly.
Continue.
Anyway, I have been a combination. You know, I opened the podcast. My opening comment was I was in a good mood, but really, after the last podcast we recorded, I was in a very dark mood. And considering what's happened lately in the news, this continues to happen, and I completely agree with Alexis' sentiment. It just gets me so fucking angry. These people who have so much potential and have so much yet to achieve, and yet they're just so, their lives are so ruthlessly and mercilessly cut short. It just gets me so sad hearing about legitimately good people wasting away. You know, whatever debilitating issues they have, disease that they have, are being eaten inside out by either cancer or HIV, and no one should have to endure something like that.
No.
No one should ever have to endure something like that. And I mean that for literally people who I seriously hate. No one would wish that on anybody. And for however many examples we have of this, and for however many times we collectively as a society fail repeatedly to do anything, to accomplish anything of meaning or substance, you'd think that at this point we would have advanced to the degree that we can come together and vanquish these horrible diseases and illnesses that uproot all of our lives. All of us have family members that have died from similar issues like these.
Mm-hmm.
In regards, I'm talking about Chadwick Boseman's passing.
And
not particularly that disease, but cancer.
And we're living and it's so strange too. We're living in a pandemic, you know, where countless people are dying, and
hundreds of thousands, 184,000.
It's projected that at the end of this year, 300,000 people are unfortunately going to lose their lives. Like in terms of Chadwick Boseman's case, you know, before we, you know, stray too far from the path, but like he was also on you know, on a roll.
Yeah, it's so similar. It's really so similar because, you know, the thing about what made Howard's dying much more frustrating, not just for him, but also, I mean, mostly for him, but even, you know, for a close friend like his and Ellen Menken is, and in the closing moments, I mean, he all of breaks down emotionally when he says, I mean, he was just so angry that he didn't get to see any of this. That's the connection. That's the similarity there. And this keeps happening. And it keeps happening to the best people.
Yeah.
You could have not had a better human being in Howard Ashman. And we've seen that repeatedly on, you know, on display in almost any circumstance that we saw, not only in this documentary, but in all of the behind the scenes features. He was genuinely a good human being. And maybe there's an expression, there is some truth to that old time saying of only the good die young. And it seems as if that keeps happening. Only the very good of us die at a horribly and viciously young age. But it's so right, you know, again, to what Alexis was saying, is that he was at the very beginning of his ascendancy, you know. There was so much more to do. But at the same time, it's so amazing how much he was even able to give the world while he was dying, kind of in a similar way to Chadwick Boseman. No one knew he was dying for the last 4 years, and yet how many movies did he make? And then the same thing with Howard Ashman. Look at how much of himself he poured into everything, even on his last year. One of the most emotional moments of the film was watching them record the music to Beauty and the Beast. Mm-hmm. And you can tell he wasn't okay, but man, he loved for whatever he could be at that, you know, whatever time he could give. You can tell he was enjoying and savoring every last moment.
You could see one of
my favorite parts is when he's watching the parade, the Little Mermaid parade at Disney World, and he's like, "This is gonna live on." after me.
Yeah. The legacy that he left is such a huge legacy. Yeah. Oh, the genuine smile that he had on his face just seeing Angela Lansbury and Jerry Oldbach, doing their thing.
Mm-hmm.
The genuine the thing about this is that a lot of people are like, oh, you have to love what you do and everything like that. But it's more to that. This brought him utter joy. He's loved, telling stories for all of his life.
Well, let me add another cliche onto that. That was literally the room where it happened, because they were making this music, this recording that we heard our entire lives. And I think more so than any other behind the scenes feature in Howard, it's almost as if we're a fly on the wall in the room. And you get a little bit of the energy and the excitement that's going through everybody when they realize, oh my God, this is fucking good, isn't it? We really hit that out of the park.
When they were recording Belle, I got chills. I was just like, this is like the beginning of one of my favorite movies of all time, And so like, just like the, little town, it's a quiet, no. And then Howard would be like, no, you see, you have to make it sound a little bit more mundane than that, Paige, and Paige O'Hara would be like, okay, so a little town, it's like, yes, a little bit more convenience like that. And just like, it's great to see the architect at work, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dude, that is, I'm sorry not to cut you off, Alexis. I wanted to say, one of the things Howard that we all know him for in terms of all the clips that we've seen of him throughout the many years, and we see it in full display here in the documentary film, you couldn't find anybody who was more exact and to the degree specific about what he wanted out of you with the performances. He didn't just write the songs. He didn't just know what the songs had to do. He told you, nah, this is how you need to sing it. The diction, the inflection points, the different ways of saying it. I mean, to the smallest minutia of it. That's
and
impressive.
Everything had meaning to it.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And that's how good of a storyteller he was. I mean, we've seen this clip many a times, but like the meaning within the documentary of him working with Jodie Benson to sing "Part of Your World." Oh God, that's might as well watch Da Vinci paint the Mona Lisa. That's how freaking phenomenal that was, because he was like, you got to be more like wanting it when you say "ready to stand," and then Jodie Benson would be like "ready to stand," and then like the story element that just that line would be something unique, and what makes like the musical numbers during the Renaissance that much more meaningful and impactful that he did that, and honestly, like, I don't think that there's ever going to be another composer or like a film or just another composer like him. You could say that Alan Menken, but Alan Menken, like, as good as he is, he's kind of carrying the torch. He's kind of carrying the Howard Ashman's torch in a way. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of not fair.
Again, in the wide multiverse, if that's such a thing, in a better timeline, Howard Ashman and Alan Menken, or Howard Ashman could have basically wrote the screenplay for Mary Poppins Returns. Think about that.
Oh my God, the potential of Howard Ashman doing Mary Poppins 2. Oh my God, that would have been so perfect. I would have died. That would have been a perfect
And who knows
thing.
how many more. I mean, you could make a reasonable argument that in a different, timeline, the animation at Disney wouldn't have taken a downturn spiral if, he hadn't left.
Yeah, he would have still pumped up new ideas and all that stuff. I mean, really, we mentioned it before in the boys review, but Alan Menken and Howard Ashman were the Sherman Brothers of that decade, of that, generation, that period of time in Disney history. And it's so amazing that, the Sherman Brothers, they kept on putting out hit after hit after hit during that time, but I think that it needed, I don't know, it needed that oomph. It needed that oomph, that kind of spiritual, symbiotic oomph.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So yeah. Anything else you guys want to?
Well, there's
about?
a lot still. I mean, we should talk about Smiles. So, like, that was one of, unfortunately, that was the last Broadway play he made, right? Because it bombed and it failed so spectacularly.
Right.
And that was like one of his biggest, if not his biggest failure as an artist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of.
Sucks. I hate that.
It's kind of cool. There's a song called Disneyland in there. That's kind of like bringing things kind of full circle. It's nice. Yeah, and Jodie Benson. Jodie Benson was in it as well.
I love that she was like, I feel like he only brought me in because he felt bad. Smile bombed so bad. But I mean, I would take it.
That could have been that could have very much been true, but honestly, like Jodie Benson is Ariel. Like there's no way around that. So I think happy mistakes, happy accidents, I guess. Yeah, also you got to think about this. Like if Smile made it big and all that stuff, The Little Mermaid probably wouldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because he would have still been touring.
Renaissance wouldn't have happened. Animation would have died. That's a reasonable.
Animation would have died, bro.
Yeah, I mean that would have been a reasonable assumption to have made. If so sometimes things work out for the best. In that regard, not of course happy that it failed, but some things
something's got to give.
Something's got to give, and that happens sometimes. Unfortunately, there. It is. Interesting, though, what I found the relationship with Howard Ashman and Ellen Menken. I never got the impression that the relationship was contentious like the Sherman Brothers was, but they did bring their own sensibilities to it. I mean, if you're looking at it from a distance, like all of us have our lives, the more information you find out about these two people, the more you realize, it's interesting they got along because they do have differences. They're not exactly the same person, right? And considering how reportedly Ashman could become contentious and frustrated, and even in the documentary, we've seen him be very confrontational with some collaborators on Broadway. It's kind of a miracle that Menken stuck around.
Yeah. But I feel like this one is, like, different. At least, like, from the Sherman Brothers. Because they chose to work together, whereas the Sherman Brothers, it was kind of like, whoa, we do this or, we're broke.
Yeah. But the thing... yeah. And also, they in a way they liked working with each other too, so that's also another added bonus.
Yeah.
unlike the Sherman Brothers. But that's the thing, though. Like you got that. I don't know. There's more. And Howard, he wore his heart on his sleeve a lot. So that led to a lot of like when he's pissed, you could tell that he's pissed and everything like that, and. I know I keep on drawing conclusions, but it's just like one creative person from another. It's kind of like Walt would, like my way or the highway situation.
Yeah, but and then I like that he kind of took over.
Yeah,
like. I mean, yeah, how you said, it's my way or it's not happening. Yeah. With the whole part of your world thing where they almost took it off and he was like, excuse me?
Over my dead body. But
I like that he did that. And I like that Disney went with it. like they trusted him enough to know what he was doing, and even though he wasn't
like Donald
like,
Trump
the director
says
or anything,
what
like,
do you have to
those
lose?
3 stories are his.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're like, okay, Howard, we'll let you do that thing. And
yeah. I mean, for Beauty and the Beast, the guy was literally like, okay, what do we do to make your life easier? And for you to, like, you know, still work with us. That's nuts.
yeah, our meetings will be at my house here in New York. You know, fly from LA to New York, and then we'll conduct our meetings and all that stuff. A lot of people were like, okay, now that he won the Oscar for Under the Sea, now that he's Mr. Big Hollywood hotshot, now that he gets to make those decisions. But no, it was just like because he couldn't stand the flights and all that stuff. And plus, like, it was such a grim image that was painted when they were like, he had to wear the medicinal bags with him when he went to work.
Yes.
And that was very
interview. Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
When I don't remember because I didn't quite catch it. Is that when he told Alan Menken, or is that when he told his partner?
That's when he told Alan Menken.
Well, he told Alan Menken the night of the Academy Awards, right? Or the night after?
What happened?
He told Alan Menken. Oh,
go ahead.
No, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say I wasn't speaking out of the risk that this stupid machine would hang up again, because it has a thing against me on these podcasts for whatever reason. But to my recollection, it was right after they won the Academy Award for Best Original Song, Under the Sea. Not that night, but I think that week that Howard Ashman told Menken that he was sick with AIDS.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just it's so weird. Like, I can't imagine, you know, knowing that you're gonna die and then having to, like, go out and talk about your future, or people asking you, like, oh, what do you think the future has in store for you?
Yeah.
Wild.
It's yeah. No. Oh my god. Oh.
I mean, it's weird because it's like we all know we're gonna die. Yeah. But knowing that it's going to happen soon.
Yeah, that's got to be rough on you.
Yeah.
And God knows how you feel. I mean, again, like, it's very topical right now with Chadwick Boseman and all this stuff when he was talking about, like, going to visit the kids with, you know, with cancer and everything like that, and how he felt that shit.
For him, though, it was maybe even to a much more insular degree, because Howard he didn't want to, but it got to a point where the studio and all of the people working were aware of what was going on. Based on what we've been seeing this past weekend, everyone from Ryan Coogler to Kevin Feige to Bob Iger, all the higher up, even they were not aware of Boseman's illness.
And I mean, you can't really blame him, because, I mean, do you really think that they would have let him work all that?
And to be fair, though, he was hired before he was diagnosed.
Yeah.
Right. But of course, I mean, from what we know about Boseman, is that he didn't want to stop working, and he literally did as much as he could. Mm-hmm. And they said in between surgeries, which, oh my God, that debilitating, I don't think even begins to describe what he went through.
Yeah, and a lot of people made fun of him too. And it's just like, when he would take, like, talk about Kamala Harris and all that stuff on, you know, Instagram and all that stuff, and he would just, like, you would see, like, the grim image, you know, on Instagram, what what he looked like, everybody made fun of him. They were like, bruh, quarantine's hitting you hard, huh?
Well, didn't they make fun of him because of his appearance?
Yeah. And just like stuff like that. And the thing is that you could tell that Howard Ashman was sick too, you know?
Yeah.
When he was doing the acceptance speech for Under the Sea, you could tell that he was really sick.
You can tell he's tired. And he looked very much exhausted in a lot of the later parts of the documentary. Although, and I don't know if you two know this, there didn't seem to be any footage about the very last weeks of his life. From anything that you've read, did he grow any of those scars? Did he become disfigured as some people unfortunately did because of AIDS? Did he even advance that far? I'm just asking because we don't have any, they didn't show that.
I don't think that's public knowledge.
Right. They did say he was blinded by the end.
He couldn't see and he could hardly speak.
Mhm.
You know, he almost lost his voice entirely. You know, and that freaking sucks. Especially when your job is like to, you know, tell stories. You know, how do you tell stories, you know, without your voice?
Your voice.
Yo. Yeah.
No, yeah. And then another part that I really I mean I don't know, it just never like clicked. But when they talk about the beast and how
Oh yeah.
wild how it's like the beast is a representation of
the mob song in particular. The sequence.
Yes. Dude, that's nuts.
We don't understand it and it frightens us and everything like that, and just like that. I don't know if it was like over, you know, again, art is political, you know, and like the stigma that I had against that, and the picket lines that, you know, God is against, you know, God loves you not because you're gay but who you are, and just like different like propagandist stuff that people would spew out back in the day. Even till this day, unfortunately, people still spew that out. It made that much more impactful, you know, in the beast and all that stuff. Again, it's like where he gave the mermaid, you know, her voice, and it gave the beast his soul, you know, and you feel that, you know. I don't know. It's just
it was a sequence that shouldn't have gotten the reaction that it had, because, you know, we've only heard that mob song literally our entire lives, and we've seen that sequence, and we know based on not just the moment in that movie, but, you know, what it's trying to say about, you know, kind of what the whole commentary about small towns, and, you know, being fearful and being manipulated that way and such. But in terms of like playing the, you know, the lyrics, the imagery, and you're putting that side by side with Howard's situation, what he had to live with the last years of his life, what his identity rendered him into a relatively low, you know, position in society because of what ignorant views were regarded as such. You know, it's interesting because I don't know if the mom or the sister was asked about if that was intentional on his part. I mean, it's twofold. You can, I mean, any great artist, any artist really draws on their real life experiences to, you know, as a wellspring for creating the art that they do. And clearly, whether or not he wrote the mob song about himself, he definitely drew upon his experiences and how the world looked at him and how they were scared of him. And he used it to paint how they would look at the beast. And it only makes it that much more heartbreaking.
Well, again, that's what art is.
Yeah.
It's just what you interpret.
Well, what did Carrie Fisher always say? Take your broken heart, turn it into art.
Into art, yeah. And that's pretty much what Howard did, you know? Especially at the times. You know? I've ran out of things to say about this. I really loved this documentary. I really did. It left me inspired. It left me happy. It left me sad. It was the perfect, you know, medicine for these times that we're in right now, to have that little bit of Disney magic and that Disney spark that Howard Ashman brought to the table. And I think that made it all that more worthwhile. Thank you, Don Hahn, for making this thing. It's actually really good. Really, really good. Yeah, Moreno, any other thoughts, Alexis?
I agree. It's really good.
A must-watch, definitely, for not just Disney fans, but also for film fans, as well as people who want to get into the industry or the business. These documentaries, I think, are very insightful and are very eye-opening about what you can expect and what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very inspirational. They're very, you know, with this and The Boys, what they share in common is that there was great success, there was great heartbreak, but look at what good it did to the world.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be here if it weren't for those people. We wouldn't be here talking about them if they didn't create what they did.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what the Disney conversation would be, if there is still a Disney conversation that we would be having.
If it wasn't for them.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, without further ado, I'm Kyle Lira, and with me is Alexys Moreno and Alexis Soto. Keep your ears peeled out on this channel. We have a lot of Mulan content coming up real soon. Alexis, Peter, and I are planning a watch party pretty soon to watch Mulan, and we'll do a review about that, you know, the same old regular bullshit that we do here on this channel. We got a Korra series coming up talking about the no, okay, it is a private screening. Yes. Socially distanced private screening that we're having. But yeah. So, Korra's coming up on Red Spotlight Entertainment, and whatever news gets popped up will be discussed over there on Red Spotlight Entertainment and more. So, without further ado, I'm Kyler, and as always, everyone, stay magical, everyone.